obscure, but basically the same character. You know, and then it gives you a little bit more freedom to use some of these more obscure characters. So I think that's good. But yeah, I like people coming up with new ideas and having something fresh to try every now and then. So it's like the Fortnite thing, if everybody's going in the same direction, then we can't really complain when that everything's stagnated, especially if we're buying it.
Yes, yes, I agree as well. I agree. Oh, there are so many good stories. It's very hard to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think let's go with the Microsoft says more than 10 million people have streamed games on Xbox Cloud Gaming.
All right. Oh, want to go there? Oh, there it goes.
It's just a little bit slow, Microsoft. So I mean, this one we don't need to sort of read because this is people can go ahead and read. I think you know what's going on. I know what's going on. So for those of you, Microsoft launched Xbox Game Pass with like 3 different levels, including xCloud, towards the end of 2021. So what xCloud is like if you have Game Pass and you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can stream your Xbox Game Pass games to your mobile device, to your smart TV that's enabled with Xbox Game Pass. Some of them do have that. To your iPad, to whatever device you want. And that is the big thing that's been going on since there was a company I remember years ago, Sony bought, that was doing sort of streaming. I don't know if you remember what that is. It's like on something. Anyway, the idea of streaming has always been like this sort of unicorn in the gaming industry, where buying gaming hardware is expensive. Buying a PlayStation or Xbox is relatively expensive. Depends on your income bracket and stuff. So the idea was that okay, $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month is doable, right? People can do that, and then they can play games on their cell phone because all the hardware and processing is done on cloud. And people have tried it, right? They've fixed the latency issue for the most part, but again, depends what kind of internet you have, where you live. But that is the future of gaming, which is what a lot of the big tech companies believe. And because Netflix has done that as well with so much success, is that streaming TV directly wherever you are loads fast. Like Adam and I recently both got Disney Plus here in Taiwan. And then if Adam feels it, like I feel Disney Plus loads slower than Netflix does.
I haven't really noticed. I only really notice when there's buffering. If there's not buffering, I don't really notice these things. I know for a long time HBO was having a lot of trouble with their streaming because my wife would watch Handmaid's Tale and it would buffer like every 20 seconds.
See, I don't have buffering, but like I feel like when I click Netflix, it goes. I key in my PIN number, it goes. I load up the show, it goes. But with Disney, I click Disney Plus. The website takes time to load. I click on the show, which I'm usually just watching The Simpsons these days. It takes time to load. I don't have a buffering issue, but I just feel it's like, of course, Netflix has spent billions of dollars in server architecture everywhere. But yeah, no. So I think the future is cloud gaming. I would like to use it. It's still not available in Taiwan, but I can imagine, um, like, like Steam has the advantage where you can stream from your desktop to your iPad, but you have to keep your computer on, which I think what's the point that I just sit in front of my computer. But I'd love to get to the place where I can say, okay, I'm going to play games from my Steam library, and I can turn off my computer. I can get into bed, click on my iPad, and play Command and Conquer, play whatever the hell I want to play. And that's my goal for streaming. What do you think, Eddie?
No, I think that cloud streaming will be eventually the future once we get to a point where infrastructure is able to support it. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll go in that direction. Is it better? I don't know. That I think it's harder to say. As far as latency, no matter how fast it gets, unless unless you're doing some sort of quantum entanglement that you can get instant, you know, feedback on both sides. It's always going to be faster if it's local. I mean, that's just the nature of distance, right? But yeah, it'll definitely get to a speed where I think for the most part we're not going to notice a huge difference. I mean, especially once you're able to do it at a speed where the latency is less than a frame rate refresh. if you can get a latency to be smaller than a frame rate refresh, you're not going to notice it. That's just not going to happen. So in that sense, definitely the future. I do kind of worry about though the idea with like right now we've seen it with the news with the PlayStation where they're shutting, or what was it? They were taking away some of the PlayStation classics. So if you had previously bought PlayStation classics on the PS3 or the Vita, then they were canceling those licenses or they were not renewing those licenses. So that's one thing that people have been saying for a long time is when you buy digital, you don't own the game, you own a license, but that license, if they want, they can take that away. You don't actually own the game. And that's happening now where, if you, I don't think too many people are playing on the PS3 or the Vita too much very often these days. And maybe it was an error, I don't know, but if it gets to that point, then like with Game Pass right now, not every game is on there. And right now you have the option on Game Pass that you can buy the game, buy the license, and download the game yourself. But I mean, once everything goes online, basically everything's basically gonna almost have to be subscription based in a way, which means that if you're playing a game and it goes off and you're halfway through, it that's what happened to me with Star Trek Discovery. I was about halfway through season 2 and then it went off Netflix and it went to, what is it on now? Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus.
Yeah, we don't have Paramount Plus in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And I already have Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO, so I'm not subscribing to another one. So I'm just SOL. I can't finish it now. If I had been watching it earlier, I could have, but because I, jumped on it when I did, and because I was watching it in the way that I did, I just can't finish it. And that to me is a little bit worrying. Not like a, oh my gosh, this is evil kind of worrying, but like, oh man, I'm not looking forward to that. So
Yeah, no, and you made a good point about licenses. Like the other big news this week was like Apple basically told App Store developers like if your game hasn't been updated in 2 years, it's off the App Store. And like I've had an iPad for a while, a good few years, and I remember I had an old like early '90s MechWarrior game on the iPad, and then they upgraded to like iOS 13 example, and they're like if you didn't upgrade to iOS 13, your game was not on the App Store. So I lost that game and a bunch of other games I had bought with my money. And I've seen that. And then I guess with iOS 15, I've bought a whole bunch of games, like board games especially, that I know some of them have not been updated because there's no need to update a game. It's just like it's a companion app to a board game. And I can imagine some of these guys like, why are we going to pay an iOS developer $100 an hour to make us to update our app?
you're not
Just
even
cancel it.
updating it. You're just updating the license.
So it's not. I think that's definitely going to be a problem with streaming. I mean, the other side is one of the things I do like when it comes to online stuff is that every single iPad I have, as long as the games have been compatible, like if my iPad breaks, I don't have to worry I'm losing anything because
Oh yeah.
it's all locked to my iOS account. Steam as well, my Nintendo Switch. I love physical games like the next person, right? I love to keep the cases. Like I think Adam and I are that generation. Do you like to collect physical PlayStation games?
I haven't really done that since the PS3. If you look at my library,
I've seen them, right? And I realized like
yeah,
that you don't really like you're not like a collector person.
I have a few cases I have a few PS4 cases, but it's really, if you look at my shelf, my shelf is filled with PlayStation 2 cases. And then I have a fair few PS3 cases, and then I only have a small handful of PS4 cases. And I haven't bought a game physical for PS5 yet, but I don't think there are that many PS5 games out right now that you can't just buy the PS4 game and upgrade for free. So,
Okay,
but yeah, I have a few. Like I have Death Stranding cases and a case for
that's
Death
interesting.
Stranding, and yeah. But yeah, I haven't bought physical in a while, and it's one of those things where I know the problem of it, and I still do it. It's but yeah, it's funny to me in a way because when at the beginning of the previous generation, the PS4 and the Xbox One, was it the PS4 and the Xbox One? Yeah, PS4, Xbox One, and Xbox came out and they said we're going to do the always online thing, where you have to check in every 24 hours, and people just completely against it, hated it, and it cost them a lot, which was a big reason why the PS4 became dominant in that generation when Xbox had been dominant the previous generation. Just the way they kind of, and this happens all the time. We saw when going into PS5, Xbox's been learning from their mistakes, and PlayStation's starting to make some of those mistakes, and it goes back and forth. But when people were totally against this idea, they're like, no, when I have my game, I want to be able to play my game. I don't want you to have to check in online every day just to be able to access my game to make sure my licenses are valid, right? But then moving into a streaming model, you have to log in every day or you can't play. So, it's funny to see how totally against it everybody was. And then, and I think I think Microsoft specifically was doing this where they were like, we know this is going to be the future and we know you're going to hate it now, but we're going to throw the idea out at you and then you're going to be angry. And then in the future, you're going to get over it. And then you're just going to accept it. And, so I think in some ways it was one of those things where they didn't change their mind, where they were like, you know what, we were wrong. We were wrong. We're sorry. We're going to backtrack. It's just like, no, we're just going to we came out too fast. We're going to wear you down more slowly, but we're going to continue doing what we were always planning to do. So
you make a really good point with that as well. It's like I was listening to a tech podcast a few weeks ago, and they were saying like one of the big things with Apple was Steve Jobs was that he said, we're not going to build products for the consumer. We're going to make the consumer like our products. And that's what they did with the iPhone. And I think a lot of big companies have done that, is to say, hey, this is what it is. You're going to like it.
Yep.
And maybe you don't like it in the beginning, but now you do. And the other thing about streaming, I was thinking as well, it's kind of unfortunate, right? Like here in Taiwan, right? Even if, let's say, lo and behold, your internet drops, your cable has a problem, like you mentioned your house, because you're in that nook and cranny and stuff, you sometimes have issues. But at the end of the day, we have unlimited 4G. You have unlimited 5G as well as in Taiwan if you pay the money for that, right? So even if you have limited 5G like I have, it just drops down to 4G, which is good enough to play games or log into your online service and do whatever the hell you want. But like in countries like where I'm from, South Africa, people still have limited bandwidth on their cell phones. I don't know anybody who has unlimited cell phone internet. Even in England, my brother doesn't have that. So, I mean, like they're developing these services, but for the